Join me as I take you through the step-by-step process in creating this drawing with force, form, shape, and anatomy. You can see already within the first two strokes on the far left and right that I've defined a forceful shape, right? See that curve right there, and it's sweeping down and around, and here's the form of it, right? So now I have some structure in place, and I drop the center line of the sternum in there. And I really wanted to think about the pulling of that pectoralis to the arm. So the fact that I drew the bottom of the pec and then the shoulder is me connecting those two ideas. All right, so we're getting the rest of the chest in here, and I really want to feel the thickness of the pecs, of the muscle, like pulling over to its place on the side of the humerus bone. All right, I'm drawing through over here to think about the trapezius and how they're going to go from one side to the other. Yeah, and you can see organicness is really in my mind in this particular drawing. You can see that when my line isn't just a clear A to B anymore, it's more than that, right? It's got some bumpiness inside of it, right? It's more specific to the anatomy. Now, granted, this is all out of my imagination, right? So it's really just coming from experience in drawing the human body and also knowing my own body and trying to bring that into the drawing, right? So I'm obviously just trying to carve out the form of the rib cage, right? Here's the top two ab muscles. Here's like the general direction of the ribs. Now I'm working my way down that shape that I originally created and trying to get the ab muscles in there. Great little trick is the belly button is between the bottom two abdominal muscles and then the second set. So you always know where that can land. Pulling those lats down. It comes from the armpit and then it's going to wrap around the back to the lower back. Got the serratus poking out there. A little bit of tone just to knock all this back underneath and behind the pecs, adding more of a drop shadow there as well. Now I'm going to get the general direction of the arm. I love the tactility of the line and how it can really represent so many ideas. Like I did in the elbow there and it poking out. Now I'm thinking about the roundness and then again the pulling, right? The pulling of the deltoid down there. It's always the action of the noun, right? I'm thinking about the action and what is that doing, right? I really want to get that. I really want the tactility of what it is, but also how it feels, right? What's its job? And the body's mostly squash and stretch or contraction and hardness versus pulling and torque and stretchness or tautness. And I want to try to keep bringing that to the work. It's really fun when you can get that deep and that involved. You'll notice another thing I did here that's very different from what maybe most of you are accustomed to seeing me draw is I didn't draw the whole figure, right? I'm crawling my way around actually very slowly, which you may see other artists do as well, except the difference is I already know what the path needs to be as I move from one region of the body to the next. So the rhythms are still like underneath the drawing, and it's like seeing an invisible train track or something, right? Or invisible road that I'm following along on that gets me from one place to the next. So now that we're moving forward onto the pelvis, let's see how I start dealing with that. A couple lines for the neck, just tightening up the rib cage, right? And then the abdominal region or core of the body. I see that line that I just put in there. That was a loop for my mind to talk about that leg coming out. And there I'm thinking about the forces of the screen left, and then I looped again. I'm thinking about the back of the leg coming from the rear end, right? And there you can see the sartorius muscle like sweeping its way down to the knee, and then I'm going to do the same thing right there, right? So I'm drawing anatomy with force at the same time, right? I'm thinking about the flow, the structure. I'm putting the quadriceps in right here, right? All kind of getting mixed together and working hand in hand, force, form, and shape. And form and shape is anatomy in those two, and if I can really squeeze some force out of the muscles and the legs, then even better, right? All right, so here we are. We're going to move up to the neck, and I'm already setting up perspective. Those lines that were between the jaw and the throat are me thinking of the angle of perspective going back, and then I'm blocking out a head, right? Filling out the different surfaces. It's like a soft box, right? This is the sternocleidomastoid muscle that I drew out over there on the side that makes its way from behind the ear to the corner of the skull and down to the collarbone, right? Getting more the center of the neck in there and just putting a tone for that surface and underneath the jaw. You can see here is the placement of the ear, which is around the center of the side of the head. It's probably a little far back, quite honestly, in this drawing. I'm going to stiffen up the back of the neck and clarify the trapezius muscles. There's the form of it, and get the other side, and get that form. So I've shaped those out. This arm, I don't like that it's going down near the body, so I decide to bring it out towards me. And you can see me looping just like I did with the leg, right? I'm thinking about the directions in space. I want those tubes to go in, right? But I want to make sure that it's going to have, again, force and rhythm and the anatomy that should be sitting there, right? So it's coming out that way. We get the bicep in here. I got a turning edge for the bicep. I'm throwing in a quick tone just to help emphasize that right there. So it really gives you a clear edge. Bicep's interesting because on the arm, it shows you the outside, the top view, and the inside, right? It occupies 3 surfaces of the arm. And here's the rest of the sternocleido muscle right there. Putting that in there. Just refining the jaw a little bit. All right. I'm tinkering around right now, basically, just moving around, holding off on getting to the arm, quite frankly. Let's see, got the knee. That top edge of the patella is something I use very often as well because that gives me a perspective angle. And the joints in general are always great places for perspective angles because they're hard. They're hard surfaces and they are 90-degree angles to their structures, meaning like the patella's top edge is 90 degrees relative to the direction and form of the leg. All right, those 2 loops right there, that was for the top of the wrist, and then the other line was for the knuckle line. So you see I built the form out there. I'm forcefully like moving my way out there now. It's the brachioradialis, and it's sweeping up and over and around, right? It tucks in underneath by the thumb on the other side where it disappears. And I'm thinking about the roundness of that. This is the extensor digitorum, this other strong band that comes out the middle of the top surface of the forearm. All right, we're making our way out over here, getting to the knuckles. I'm going to shape out the fingers, as you can see. So it's one big shape, thinking hierarchically, getting the knuckles blocked in there. All right, and then it looks like I'm going to have this first finger, the pointer finger, come out towards us. Got to make things a little more interesting. I usually, let's see what I do here. I knock down the other 3 fingers probably. Now it's slightly coming out. Okay, so the middle finger is slightly coming out in perspective. How do we know that from how little I drew? You can see the shape of the middle finger is narrower by the knuckle than it is at the main knuckle versus the first digit, where it gets wider. So that insinuates space, right? This tone here, I'll say those knuckles are pointing downward, right? Not that we even need the tone is just extra icing on the cake, quite honestly. All right, so there we go. So we have an arm, right? Just clarifying the silhouette and the shapes, a little bit of tone. This is me just messing around, right? See, I'm thinking, when I am toning, I'm thinking about the darkness on the right and the light on the left, screen left. Let's jump ahead here. You can see I've blocked out all those right sides, right? So I'm going to get to the other hand. Notice the line for the knuckles. I'm coming out with the middle finger there, being aware of that line at every knuckle to create perspective. All right. I'm getting a shape for the fingers, and then I'm breaking up that shape with the fingers themselves and their knuckle lines, because that, again, holds on to the perspective. So I made the shape, I filled it in with the fingers. I'm going to tone in this whole surface to make it match with the rest of the image, right? The turning edge is about right there. So I darkened it in a little bit more. We got it on the thumb. All right, we're coming to the end here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what, then check out drawingforce.com. That is where you'll find more videos like this, where I either mentor, or you can join as a basic member or a premium member, where I strongly believe the benefit of the site is where you actually get feedback on your work, right? So take care until our next video. Bye-bye.